Isles time. Brendan Yerkes, Cole Healy here again. It's NHL draft week, and it's an exciting time to be a Islanders fan as we've said our first two episodes. But today, our first ever guest, special guest, Rocco, the at Pizza Sports Guy on Twitter or X. You know him from the Isles House podcast. You could check them out on their Patreon and their Discord as well. Pizza Sports Guy, we followed each other for a while. He's always got a lot of great Islanders content on there, built a nice little following, and we're excited to have him on to discuss some drafts, some Islanders ahead of what should be a big weekend for the Isles.
Yeah, boys, thanks for having me on. Excited to be here. Didn't even realize I was the first guest. That's exciting. First time I'm the first of pretty much anything, so that's cool. But yeah, really exciting times. Ready to discuss pretty much everything around the Isles because we know the next couple days are going to be real big.
Right, and as we were saying before the show, I mean, I don't think there's ever been the vibes haven't been this good really since the Tampa series 4 years ago. It's just been there's been some good moments here and there, but since that time, it's been tough. But just we've been saying it every. I mean, it's only the third show, but just with Dortch and the new moves made, it just like a breath of fresh air around the team. And then the first pick excitement obviously leads to that. But we wanted to have you on today and just discuss Schaefer because I know you've been watching a lot of Schaefer film. And the Schaefer Syndicate is what we're going with.
If we're not talking about Shagan's, the combo deal, you pull up to the fast food drive-through, you get the combo, or we just want to talk the entree and discuss Matthew Schaefer. That's totally fine.
Well, we can get there. I mean, I it's
No,
tough
we don't
because
have to. We don't. We
no,
just
I was going to a little bit, but it's the frustrating part is like everyone's putting it in their mind now that like Shagan's is going to happen. Where it's like the odds of it are higher than zero, and like there's a pretty good chance that I think the Islanders want to do it, but you know there's still 31 other teams that probably are like, oh, maybe we can get this player too. So, but at least Schaefer, we think should be the first pick. Dortch obviously had a press conference earlier today talking about, there's a few players that we like, but obviously he's just playing the game. But as far as Schaefer goes, just really he climbed up the ranks, I think, in the last 2 months. I mean, when the Isles won the lottery, I mean, Schaefer was ahead of Michael Misa, but it was close. I mean, it wasn't
yes.
clear cut. And my original concerns were injuries, and I didn't look too far into it because again, the odds of us having the first pick are only 3.5%. So I think everybody kind of did their research after the fact, but just everything seen everywhere. Just Schaefer is the real deal.
Oh yeah, big time. Like I have been on a few like mock draft pods, and on our pod we've discussed it and dissected this draft a number of times. Is Schaefer the pick? Is Misa the pick? And the thing when you put on the Schaefer tape is like it's hard to find a weakness. It honestly is. I feel like a lot of defensemen that have that much offensive upside, you usually find a lot of weakness in their own end. But he doesn't really have that. I think he's going to be really solid in his own end. I think he's a great skater. I think it's a little different because everyone loves to throw that Makar out there when you have a number one pick style defenseman, top five, whatever it may be. But you got to understand too with Makar, like that's not only a one of one player. In my eyes, he's sort of outside of like a McDavid, McKinnon. Not many people in this league, which is the best in the world, skate like him. Like it's stylistically too, right? Makar skates like a horse. Like it's unbelievable when he skates. He literally, to me, it feels like he's galloping on the ice. Schaefer's not that. Schaefer to me is more of a smooth, Heiskanen, maybe Werenski style skater where it's really smooth, long stride. It's nice. I think people get too caught up in trying to compare him to a Makar or a Quinn Hughes, who is more to me like a Pac-Man style skater where he just bounces around. This is a kid that's a little different style, but I truly think has similar upside to those names. I'm not saying he's going to be them, but when you look at the toolkit, like it's all there. Like I literally, if you ask me right now, what's his weakness? I really wouldn't even know what to say.
Right. I mean, just lean like the injury, but that's just bad luck. That's not like,
Right.
but which obviously he has to get bigger, which I think
Every
everybody
kid in the
knows.
draft does, just
Right.
about. Other than, the guys that are monsters like a Frondell. Almost all these kids have to get bigger. And sometimes when they're not big yet, especially with a kid like Schaefer, who's decent size, but he's definitely going to, probably by the time he's in his prime, be 15, 20 pounds heavier. Like, that makes him even scarier. Like, imagine him in the defensive end if he's 205, 210 at his 6'2", or I believe 6'3" height. Like, he could be a two-way beast. And I think that's where he's, at least in my mind, I think it's at the point where he's in his own tier. I mean, you hear the whispers of the Sharks maybe considering Frondell at two. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's more just smoke. But I've never really gotten a true vibe that the Islanders were even debating someone else at number one. I know we got the hometown kid, Higgins, people saying this and that. I think that was more just to start a discussion. I really think when the Islanders evaluated this player, it was just kind of him alone. And I don't think it's a question. And I really think once they went to the combine, he was even more in his own tier because I think what he is as a character player. Like they were raving about this kid's interview. I mean, I spoke to some people that said, kid like Higgins, great interview. Kid like Misa, great interview. Schaefer is like you immediately think he's going to be your captain in 7, 8 years. He's that type of personality. He's been through a lot at such a young age, but the fact he's able to overcome it, the fact he's able to speak on it so openly and try to inspire people that are going through similar, it's just really impressive for a kid you sometimes forget is only 17 years old.
It's tough because in a year like this, originally when they won the lottery, there was no top McDavid, Celebrini type player. But I think as more time has gone on, it appears, maybe this is a generational type player, but we didn't really see it because he was injured all year. Do you feel that way now, or do you think that it's kind of a little bit of, everyone talking about Schaefer and kind of rising his stock over the last 2 months, or do you think he really is that generational player that was just injured and missed time?
Generational's tough because, like, to me, generational is like I wouldn't even really consider.
Well, I guess maybe a tier below that then, but
Yeah,
I
like
guess
the
you get what I'm trying
Bedard.
to
Like I
say.
could see him. Like honestly, I feel like Bedard was way more hyped than Celebrini. And then now
Yes.
Celebrini's played his first year, and some people, probably including myself, would take Celebrini over Bedard. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would. I
Yeah,
mean, look at Lafreniere, the way he was hyped up in
right,
2020.
right. So hype is only hype, really. I mean, Makar wasn't the number one overall pick in his draft, yet every time someone drafts a defenseman high, we talk about Makar. He wasn't Darlene, he wasn't Owen Power, he wasn't number one, he was super high. I think three. I could be wrong, maybe a little lower.
Well, Makar was four. I think Heiskanen was three, which is funny
Oh, okay.
enough.
Oh, yeah. Two good examples. So,
Right.
I don't want to throw out generational, but as far as like the potential to be in that next group, I would say, yeah. I mean, because like I said, he might not be the wow you 70, 80 point defenseman, at least not right away. But like, I just think he's going to be so well rounded. He's such a good skater. And I feel like he fits the modern day NHL so well because he's long, he's got a good stick, he's a good high IQ leader, everything you would want. I feel he has in his game.
Right. And
Just
we'll get
another
to
thing.
more on Dobson later, but just he seems like he's everything that Dobson isn't. Like he has like he's the things that Dobson is supposed to be doing, Schaefer has those tools.
So yeah, I mean, and I do think Dobson has tools. I've gotten into this on our pod as well, where I feel like we've gone so far the other way on Dobson. Sometimes we do forget his good qualities. I mean, I don't think he's good in his own end at all, and that's where I think Schaefer, hopefully, and as of now, at the same age, clears it. When it comes to shooting, like maybe the shot is similar. I think Schaefer's going to be a better passer. I think Schaefer has a little bit of IQ, and I think Schaefer. I'm not going to say he's going to be like a physical beast, but I don't think he would be afraid either. And for me, that's sometimes my frustration with like a Noah Dobson, where it's kind of shies away from contact. I don't want to say afraid of contact, but shies away. So I guess, but at the same time, Dobson was what, the 11th, 12th pick. So, you
Right.
know,
Different situation.
yeah, different situation. And you still were hoping on that big upside from Dobson. But I think Schaefer's way more hyped than Dobson was his draft.
Absolutely. I'm just talking about like, defensive zone physicality. Like obviously we've seen the offensive prowess from Dobson, but I think Schaefer, obviously when he puts the weight on and
Yeah.
adds the muscle that the defensive game will be better. And again, we'll get to the Dobson discussion later because he's
Yeah.
a big chip for a potential Hagen's trade up, but we'll definitely see.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
another thing with Schaefer, like he's what, 11 days from being in next year's draft. And like, we win the lottery, right? A lot of people are talking about, oh, this guy only played 17 games, no one's really talking about him. Like he's barely eligible for this year's draft. Like he's one of if not the youngest player in this year's draft. If he was going next year, he would be, I think, in that top three discussion, right along with Gavin McKenna. Probably not top of McKenna, but I just feel like that's another thing people are forgetting at times. And just to see a guy so young be that mature and be like that great of a leader, according to everyone that's been in the locker room with him, like it's just you don't see that. So how do you feel like that's gonna carry over? And I guess also just kind of go off of that. Do you think he's ready for the NHL next year, or do you think another year in juniors or even in college is the right route for him?
So for me, I think we're going to learn a lot at the development camp when he's kind of playing amongst his peers. It's all guys his age, prospects. There's probably going to be some guys there that are on the cusp. Like I imagine like a Cal Ritchie will be there, right? So that's a good measuring stick where it's what does he look like next to Cal Ritchie, who's supposed to be in the NHL come October? If he's keeping up or maybe beyond him, I don't know if you could not put him in the NHL. Historically, most number one picks start in the NHL. Maybe it's a marketing thing sometimes. Maybe it's excitement because let's be real. Opening night at UBS, if Matthew Schaefer's in that lineup, we're all going to be excited, right? Tickets will sell. It is a business at the end of the day, but I don't think it's just about marketing either with Schaefer. I think he may truly be good enough. And I also think had he played a full season, it might not even be a question. Because if he played a full season and looked the way he did during those 17 games, looked the way he did in that short stint at the World Juniors, looked the way he did dominating the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, by the way, which McKenna was his teammate, and he was consistently the best player on the ice. Like, every time I watch clips of this kid, he looks like the best player on the ice. He stands out. He's big. Is it a risk? Sure. But I think at the end of the day, for me, I'd like to see him, if he doesn't go to the NHL, which I think there's a good shot, but if he doesn't, I'd like to see him go the NCAA route and play against men. Because although he only played 17 games this year, I don't think he has much to prove in the Canadian junior level. You have nights where you're playing against teams that are all 15, 16, 17-year-olds. We know that, like in the O and the Dub and the Q. The bottom of the barrel teams are because they're all young guys. So I want him playing against grown men. So I'd prefer he either sticks in the NHL or picks his NCAA team and plays in this new level, new identity NCAA hockey that you have all these studs coming. I mean, McKenna's going to be there next year, most likely. Got a bunch of other guys committing. I think it would be so exciting for college hockey if he went. So if he doesn't make the NHL, I truly hope he goes the NCAA route because I really don't think he has too much to prove in Erie.
I mean, all three ways, I think, honestly, I'd be okay with. NHL, does he certainly have the skill to be there? Yes. But again, I think to me, it goes back to, the weight and the injury. Like, I think I would rather him not be in the NHL against obviously the best players in the world, where yes, he has the skill to be able to hang with those guys, but to spend the year bulking up and, obviously improving the game that way, where you can step into the NHL next year and have the build for it. Because again, with him being young, you run that risk, but you run that risk with any player, so I
Right.
understand that. The NCAA probably is the best route. I'd agree with you there. But then again, even if he went back to the OHL, I don't know if it would be the worst thing in the world to see him go there, play a full season, and just absolutely dominate from the back end. But um, NCAA is probably the route I would go as well.
Yeah. There's also, sorry to cut you off if you were about to go, Cole, but
No, you're good. You're good.
I've discussed this on my pod a number of times, and I know I'm much older than you guys, so you might not remember this. But when Stamkos was a rookie, what Tampa Bay would do with him is they would sort of do this one-on, one-off type schedule where he'd play one game, take the next game off, and during the game he'd be in the weight, trying to put on weight, add strength, whatever else. So he was gaining that experience playing the games, and then the next game where he was a scratch, be in the weight room, working on his strength training, trying to sort of be on a pitch count, for lack of a better term, because the other side of it is a lot of these guys don't play that long of a season that goes the 82 games an NHL season does. So, you want to get them ready for all that stuff. So I'd be very okay with that route as well. I think when you have a prospect of this talent level and, how many times you can draft number one overall, how many times you're going to get a guy in at this stage in his career where he's that close to being ready. So again, I understand the other routes, but for me, I would, if you drafted him for a reason, you believe in him, and a lot of guys are raw and need time. But if this guy's this good and this close, I think you want your hands on him. And I think you want to keep him in hands. That's just me. I could see it going another way, but if you ask me right now where I think he is come October, personal opinion, I think he's on the island.
And
Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate what you guys said. Like, I think he can. I think he has the talent to be there. I can see possibly doing kind of what they did with Dobson his rookie year. I know obviously
Yes.
he was and he went back to juniors another year, but yeah, it was like he played a little bit, scratched a little bit. I know he played a lot when Pellick went down that January, but yeah, it was like an every other game thing up to the first half of that season. I definitely think that could help Schaefer. Yeah, I also think college is the way to go. Although I think like the big argument for juniors is just they play more games, getting more reps. Again, he would be dominating. It really wouldn't be the competition that he'd be facing in college. But I mean, he says the collarbone is good, so I'm trusting the doctors there. I'm not like I would say if he was worse, then kind of ease back into it, make sure you're feeling 100%, go back to juniors. But yeah, no, I don't think that's an issue for him. But yeah, no, I could see if he's just focused on playing more games and going back to juniors. But with the way that college hockey's looking, it's tough to say no to that with how good it's going to be.
Well, let me add something to this. What if, no matter where he is, I feel like it'd probably be unless he's dominating or playing really well in the NHL, send him to the World Juniors anyways. Like if you keep
Yeah,
him
you
in the
could.
NHL and then like December comes and they sometimes NHL teams, they get asked, let him go there, let him captain the team, and I think that would be some good experience because he obviously got cut short and that's where the injury happened. I feel like that would be really good.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But the other side of that too is you run the risk again. Like, is he getting injured on someone else's jersey? You know what I mean? So
Right.
like, you want to be careful. And I mean, like, I wouldn't be opposed. Like, if he was kind of doing that Stamkos route that I suggested, and they wanted to do that, I think that would be cool. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a little early to like fully know. Like, I think once he goes to development camp, and then from development camp, if he doesn't choose the NCAA route, can be at regular training camp, we'll really see. Because once they get into preseason games and stuff like that, you start to see if guys belong. And honestly, as we know, sometimes you watch preseason games, guys look great, guys look like they belong, and then the real regular season starts and they don't. So it's a long way to go. I mean, I think they are going to give him every opportunity, as most number one picks would get. So he also said he's not deciding on, a lot of these guys have decided on their college routes because they know they're not going to be in the NHL next year. There's a reason Schaefer and Misa have not committed it. It's because they want to see where they're drafted, see what the team thinks, and go from there.
Yep. And I have faith in Dortch, and I'm sure he already has an idea of what,
Yeah,
where he feels right now. Obviously, that could change as, like you said, development camp and things happen. But you got to, everything he's saying, he knows what he's doing. Like, he's not just still thinking about this. Like, it's going to be, should be Matthew Schaefer. And then they're going to go in and then talk with the staff, with him, and get everything figured out. But obviously, we know based on what he said, and you mentioned his story a little bit, that he's committed to winning. He's committed to being one of, like, the best player he could possibly be. And I think what's encouraging is that, obviously he's also done a million interviews. It's exciting to see all the big media that traditionally, doesn't really care for the Islanders, giving the team a lot of attention and a lot of respect. And I think associating that with Matthew Schaefer, because I think the expectation of Schaefer coming to the island, it's kind of adding that respect. And you see that Schaefer wants to come here. I mean, obviously he wants to be the first overall pick, but I think just seeing the quotes and hearing him say that is a nice little boost too. Like, this guy's gonna want to come here. He's gonna love it, and he's gonna hopefully be, a star on the back end for the next, 15 years.
right. Yeah, and it's one thing I like about him too is just the way he speaks. Like, he's a marketable kid. It's not like one of these things where he's a shy kid that kind of felt sheltered his whole life or whatever else. It's not even his answers. Like when he speaks, you could tell. Yes, I'm sure he is media trained to a certain extent, but he's not giving all cookie cutter, expected answers. He has a
Not
little
like our
fun with
last
it.
first overall pick.
No comment, but he, I think he has a little fun with it, and I think that's nice because when you have a leader on your team, that's the sort of qualities you want. Loosen up the room, have a little fun. Yes, you have to be serious. It's a business. It's a game where these guys are making a lot of money. But when you have that ability to say, guys, let's have a laugh, let's do this, it helps. So I think he's wise beyond his years, and I think like this is a kid. We're going to see his face. If he turns out to be as good as we're expecting him to be, we're going to see his face all over ESPN and any NHL sort of promotion. And now Lou's gone, so you're going to see him on podcasts and things like that, having some fun. So it really is the perfect time because no disrespect to Lou, but if Lou was here, this kid would come here and then be tied up. No podcasts, no this, no that. It kind of was like we let go of Lou and then we turned this whole, I don't want to say the whole ship around, but we turned the mentality around where it doesn't
Right.
have to be. Lou was great and Lou did a lot of good things and he made this franchise respectable again. But I think it's time for this franchise to become more marketable and have their players on pods. And, I think of young kids coming up. We're talking about other players that are from our area and kids look up to. Like, you want this sort of kid that's around that young Islander fans growing up could look at and be like, that's our guy. That's kind of what they need. Yes, we have Barzell, but Barzell's been on the team for a while under a Lou regime that didn't let too much personality out, if we're being fair. So the fact that we got this kid, the fact that this kid could be an absolute stud, it's just such a huge win for the Isles.
Yep, comes at a perfect time. I know he said he loves singing, dancing, kind of like adds to what you said.
Yeah.
Like it's completely true. Just seeing all the marketability and just all the fun stuff coming in just adds to just the breath of fresh air that we're getting with the team. And I know I keep bringing up Dobson, but I think I've seen stuff from when his juniors days he was a more outgoing, fun guy, and then he came to the Islanders, and now he's just talks like this. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you kind of see it and it's happened to a bunch of players where some of them have some personality, but that also helps the players maybe play better, play looser. And again, no, we talked on the first episode about how much we respect Lou, and that Lou was obviously, I think, not shown enough respect at the end. But with that being said, it's still the right way to go here moving forward. All right, so I think that should be it on Schaefer. We're all expecting him to go one. Just love the way he plays, the skating, the hands, shot. He's got everything. Just the way he plays will be a perfect fit. And Hagen's discussed a little bit. We'll see. I mean, I really think the Islanders are going to try and get in there in the top 10. And it might not work, but I think that they, you can't always think about marketing and stuff like that, but I think it's just so important that this kid wants to be there. And I think obviously, he's a top prospect. He was projected one for 2 years before this. So if they could, take some of the assets like a Dobson or a Pajot or the extra first next year and try and get in, and you might as well try. I mean, I think Utah and Boston, I think, are the two that make the most sense to me as potential trades. But if they could find a way to pull that off, this will be a monumental day.
And the one thing I keep saying about Higgins is, listen, wherever he goes, he could be great, but in the grand scheme of things, he's worth more to the Islanders than any other team because, again, it might be a dream world thought in many people's heads, but I think they're trying, one. And two, like, it's just, if you have this kid, the amount of, I don't think Higgins is ready. Like, I think he's going to play one more year at BC. I know he said he hasn't
Yeah.
decided anything. I think that's best for his future, just from what I've seen. I think he needs one more year. But in this sense, could you imagine if they take Schaefer one and can land Higgins after a trade up a couple picks down the road? I mean, I think the season tickets will go crazy if they were to do that because you have Schaefer maybe playing this year, and then next year you have this kid that's like the hometown hero, along with the Yzerman, Danny Nelsons of the world. Like, the future gets really bright, and I think it excites the fan base. Again, it's not all about just the marketing. You got to win games, but man, would that be a PR win if they could pull that off too?
Oh yeah.
I want to say also, we should be very happy just getting Schaefer. I think a lot of people,
Oh yes. Very
including
true.
myself, and maybe some of it's because of my tweets, but like, we get caught up about Shagans. We want both. We're going to be disappointed if we don't get both. We shouldn't be disappointed. I mean, prior to the lottery, I was looking up Radim Mertka and Jake O'Brien videos. We are very, very lucky to be getting Matthew Schaefer. It's just the dream world of Higgins is that.
And I know we've talked about this. Like, you look 12 months ago, we had, Danny Nelson as our top prospect, probably.
Yeah.
Just everything that's happened, the fact that, Yzerman fell down to 20, the Nelson trade to get Cal Ritchie, and then just winning the lottery. Like, if we, even just those three prospects right there, like, those are three great prospects. If we can somehow get Higgins as well, this would be one of the, I don't know. I don't think it's a stretch to say that would be one of the best top 4 prospects that we've had at any point in time.
Yeah,
And I'm trying to
Yeah,
think. I know in
wild.
my lifetime we've haven't had any great prospects. I guess I
we
mean
had the Dal Cole,
yeah, Dal Cole,
Hosang.
Hosang, and Reinhardt.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a Fugazi prospect pool for a little bit
Yeah,
where we
And
were.
when we talked ourselves into it being good, I mean, let's not forget, we're like, they're coming, they're
Well,
coming.
the difference was,
I'm
this,
looking at my Josh Hosang jersey as we speak.
hey, we were all hyped about Josh Hosang at one point in time, but
Yeah,
the difference is, and I always say this about that era, the Islanders really needed to like luck into one more number 1 or number 2 pick because after the Tavares draft, it was always 4 or 5 or wherever else they were drafting, and it seemed like wherever they were drafting was 1 or 2 spots after the cutoff. I mean, the 2014 draft, I believe, they constantly bring up those 4 players: Reinhardt, Draisaitl, Ekblad,
Nylander.
and who?
Nylander was up there.
Nylander, but it was the top because
Oh, he was a little bit after.
3 of them are on Florida, and then
Reinhardt.
oh Bennett.
Barkov. I think it's
Yep.
Barkov. Is it Barkov?
I think Barkov was 13. I think Bennett was
All right.
14.
Okay, so it was Bennett, Reinhardt, Ekblad, and Draisaitl. Those were the
Draisaitl,
4
yes.
from the
Yeah.
2014 draft. We picked 5th and took Del Cole. Like we
Yeah,
were
and then
always
Nylander was right after, so
right.
that's what
We
I was
were
doing.
all yeah, exactly. So we're always just like a little bit after that cutoff. Yes, they could have taken Nylander. They could have Ehlers. I think was in that draft as well.
Yeah,
But
it's easy to say that after the fact, but
of
still,
course,
like,
but
right.
the difference now, I feel, we're getting when we got the number 1 pick last time, we had Josh Bailey and not much else really. So we were just building it up when we got the number 1 pick. The difference now is, say what you want about the current roster, it is a trillion times better than the roster the Islanders had when they got the number 1 pick in 09. So you have a better starting point. You have better prospects around them based off selling prior. You had things to sell. You sold Nelson, got Cal Ritchie. Yzerman slid. We're all big fans of him. He looks good. So you don't know until you know. You do not know until they're on NHL ice. But man, like Cole said, I mean, 12 months ago, we were looking at Danny Nelson and Isaiah George and just praying. Now, all of these guys are knocked down. You're going to look at a prospect pool just after the number 1 pick. You're going to have Schaefer, Ritchie, Yzerman. I mean, the guy that was number 1 last year is 4 or 5 now. So huge improvement. Overall, they'll probably be ranked like middle of the pack. I think that's just because
They were so low.
yeah, they were so low and maybe they don't have the depth of like the quantity of prospects. But for me, give me the quality. Like give me the top
Right.
level guys, and then you find the other pieces. So just super exciting times. The pool's looking good. Again, we got to let them develop, but I don't know how you can't be excited about some of these kids. Even Cole
Yeah,
Yzerman. I feel
absolutely.
like we're at the point where we're forgetting we have Cole Yzerman almost because of Ritchie,
Yeah.
because of
Yeah,
Schaefer incoming. Like this kid lit it up. First year NCAA, lit it up. Ton of goals. Like you look at the other names that have put up that goal total in their freshman year. It's Eichel, I think, like a couple other guys. And
yeah,
it's
Eichel, Celebrini. Yeah, it's not a
crazy
lot.
names. Crazy
I
names.
saw that video of him ripping slappers, I think, at a Bauer practice the other day. It's like, oh, like imagine like Cal Ritchie feeding this guy in the power play for like
There you go.
years
And
to
I don't
come.
know, did you guys catch the Higgins interview on Chicklets today?
Yes, I did. He
Did
said
you?
Cal Ritchie's the best player he
Yes.
played against in World
Yeah.
Juniors.
I was
Oh
dying
my
at
God.
that. I
Like
was
fire.
saying, who
I
were you
said,
impressed with? At World Juniors, who were you
yeah,
impressed with? And right away he's like, that Ritchie guy in Canada.
he knows what he's doing.
Maybe he does. He's doing a
The
lot of
video.
things. Even
Well, I was
Yeah.
talking to people about Richie, about like, oh, I'm like, if they could find a, because I saw one mock trade before the Nelson one went through, like earlier in that week. I'm like, if they could find a way to get Cal Ritchie in this deal, then I'm gonna. I think I like levitated when and I saw the notification go across my screen. So I said, I'm like, I'm buying in. I'll buy the jersey opening night, Cal Ritchie this year. That's my new investment. You know, gotta stand by the pick. But just going back to what you said before about the prospect pool, like, you know, not only is that better than it was, but just compared to the Tavares era, think about the structure that's in place that Lou built. Like, you know, there's
right,
management, they have the arena, the practice facility. I mean, that's like not people, but those things and the coaches. Like, there's stability in place where it's not like a giant mess organizationally. Like the ownership is there, and even the lower tier prospects, like yeah, they're not as good as like the depth isn't there as some other teams, but some of them are like rising through the ranks. Like a guy like Quinn Finley, like was towards the top of the nation in points. I think he was leading it at one point in the beginning of the college season. He's
right.
somebody that was just as like, oh, he's just a random third round pick. He like probably nothing. To now, like, all right, maybe he doesn't turn out to be something, but there's a possibility. And like the mid to late round picks, like you're seeing production where they used to kind of just be like, like a random one's like a Bode Wild where there are some weird things like, oh, he's got skill, but then he just kind of fizzles out. Where there's a guy like now, Jesse Nurmi won the Memorial Cup with London. Like, again, no guarantee he turns into anything, but at least you're like, all right, this guy actually has a chance. Like developmental years, like you're seeing progress by your mid and late round guys where you can't really bet on that. But really, obviously, you have to hit on the first round picks. That's most important. But overall, just the prospects and it's just a good time, especially because like Cole said before, like you're looking at bottom of the barrel team that's just old and just declining, and all of a sudden excitement, and this team could still compete, like for a
Yep.
playoff spot and slowly work up to being a contender.
And I think the other side of it too is you don't have to go all in. This is like you don't have to. I think fans at this point, because of Schaefer, because of Richie, knowing Iserman's in the pool, like there's hope for the future. So at least I can't speak for anyone. I can only speak for myself. But for me, after this draft, if they missed on a couple free agents, if Darsh came out and said, "Listen, we want to be good this year. We didn't want to go all in. We're more focused on the entire future and the next 3 to 4 years to create a long term window," I'd be fully accepting of that. You have the pieces now. A year ago at this time, you couldn't say that because you're looking at, okay, what's the future? We don't have much. Now you have something to promote, you have something to market, you have something to make fans excited, quite frankly. You don't have to have these win now all in teams like we did a number of years under him. I'm not saying he was wrong. If you have a team good enough, go for it. But now this enables Darsh to have a vision and speak on his vision. Whether he wants to draft Schaefer and then maybe go after a high price free agent and try to be good this year, or if he wants to maybe sell off a few pieces, get younger, and just evaluate for this year. I think you could do whatever you want. I think you just have to be straight up with your vision. And again, I think it's a good spot for Darsh to be in. They said, I believe Elliot Friedman said, the second they landed the number one pick, this job became that much more desirable, probably because the future's brighter. How can it not be more desirable? You're drafting a player that might be ready to go right away versus a player that's 3 years away. So it feels like we started a retool and sort of hit fast forward. And a lot of it's luck. That's kind of how it works sometimes.
And we've had no luck, so can't
Yeah,
complain.
the Penguins getting Crosby, at some point that's luck. The Oilers getting McDavid, luck. Sometimes you just need a little good luck to change things.
And and I said since the I mean that we'll get to the next point, but since Beauvillier scored that goal, which was 4 years ago yesterday on the day we're recording this,
Wow.
I think there hasn't been any good luck for this franchise. Like from that goal on, that season, UBS wasn't done. 13-game road trip, injuries, COVID, Trotz leaves, like blown leads, power play, everything is a nightmare. And now it's like, all right, like clean slate. Like this year was just by the end. I mean, like we're all in the same boat. We're all diehard fans here. But by the end of this year, it was hard to watch.
It was.
I was telling Cole like the game in Nashville at the end of the year when they were up 2 goals with 3 minutes left. I went down to see that game, and
Oh,
I'm sitting there
gosh.
and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But now it's like, you know what? They win that game, we might not be having this
Right.
conversation about
Right.
Matthew Schaefer. So it's like, you know what? Clean slate. And I think with what you said, Darch being in a good spot to make these moves, I think kind of segues into the ability that maybe no free agents, but I feel like a trade just to shake the roster up to get back on Dobson again. A lot of rumors floating around about JJ Paterka and how those two could be swapped. I think obviously we'd get more in return in that trade. And I think that's a way you can improve your forward core. And now if Schaefer's coming in, if you expect him to be on the roster, you already have a log jam defensively of just so many defensemen that you could use that money, allocate it somewhere else, and still get a good young piece where you're building in the right direction, but you're kind of shaking up the team a little bit. And I think that could work.
Yeah, I like Paterka. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know if we're the best fit for that deal. Buffalo's been shopping him all around. I think, not saying he's the best player on the market, but he might be the player on the market with the most interest. I feel like every day there's a new team that's after Paterka. Young player, high skilled. And it's another player you could look at and say, and this is no shot at Buffalo, but get him away from Buffalo. Could he be even better? Say that about a lot of guys over there. So it's so much upside with Paterka. I wouldn't be opposed to the deal. I just don't see the Islanders being the best fit per se to get it done with them. I'd imagine they want a right-handed defenseman, but cost and signing
Hmm.
Paterka to a new deal. There's
Well,
so
similar to
many
the last, I think I
factors.
like Kairu better as a fit from St. Louis.
I think Kairu's more, maybe lack of a better term, but sure thing. Like Kairu's done it a little longer.
Right.
But you also, how old's Kairu now? 26?
So like 27,
I'll take
26.
it. I'll look real quick.
Yeah, so he's probably a little bit older than Dobson. I think Paterka's younger. So, I mean, listen, I wouldn't be opposed to either move. And I think on the Dobson front,
He's
oh,
27.
Kairu's 27. So he's
Yeah.
a year or two older than Dobson, right? So, yeah, for me with Dobson, I like the player, but I also think he's a bit of a flawed player. So, if that number is going up to 10 mil, which Elliot Friedman seems to think it's going to go to, I'm sorry, but I'm trading. And whether that's a ton of draft capital, a one-for-one swap for a player, you guys named Paterka, Kairu. I think there might be another RFA or two you could try to swap in that deal that might be around. So, you could work it. And the beautiful part for Darsh is if you want to make the trade, like, there's so many directions you could take. You could do so many different things. And listen, do I fear trading Dobson and then Dobson just, you know, going nuclear elsewhere and looking great and back to the 70-point defenseman he was for that 1 year? Sure, it could happen. But part of me is starting to think it might not happen here. Again, just personal opinion, I think he might be better suited with a change of scenery. I understand why people love the player, but something to me just seems to be missing. So I definitely wouldn't be one to be crying if he was sent out of town.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Flawed player, like, still see the skill, a lot of nice plays here and there, but just the turnovers, getting bodied, like, being a taller guy, he's still getting boxed out in front
Right.
of his own net. All those things just, and again, with the offensive upside, I can't justify giving him that much money. And like you said, like if you could trade him and like allocate that money elsewhere and still improve the team and still stay young, then I think that's the way to go. But again, that's nothing against him, as a player. He's a good young player, a good guy, but I think it makes sense to send him elsewhere. I think Cole, you're on the same page there too.
Yeah, I mean Dobbs. When I think of Dobson, there was a play in the last game of the year against Columbus. There's like 2 minutes left. Martin's last shift in the NHL, right? He's taking the face off. Fantilli lets him win the face off. Wins it to Dobson. Here comes Dobson up the ice, makes a move, turns it over. Fantilli just rips it right away. It's like that just to me sums up how Dobson, like at least this last year, really under Patrick Waugh. He put up all those numbers under Lambert, and then he got fired. Then he just hasn't put up the same offensive numbers since then. But it's like he does show he has flashes of great offensive skill, right? I think he is capable. Maybe not 70 points every year, but, being a 60-point guy every year. I just don't think it's happening with the Islanders. I don't think the forward group is there to kind of finish all those chances, right? We've seen all the offensive struggles that we've had. Obviously the future is looking brighter in terms of that, but I think just with all like I don't think that I know Sarah Valley said 11 million and then Rosner said he doesn't believe that to be true. Regardless, he's going to get more money than he probably deserves. Again, he can still be a guy, he can play up to his potential and be worth that money. But yeah, I really don't think it's going to be in an Islanders uniform. So I know there were rumors earlier this season about Kairu. I would have loved Kairu. I just feel like he's a little younger than Barzal, I believe. Yeah, right. We just went over that. He's 26
See, you're young.
27.
now. And like I just like they play. I know they would play so well on the same line, Kyber and Barzell. Yeah, so Kyber is definitely a guy I would consider moving Dobson for. I would move him to. I'm more on the fence with moving him for a fourth overall pick, right, for Higgins.
Fair. It's a
I'm
big
not
question
against it.
mark.
I would, yeah. It's just because, yeah, you're drafting a guy who you just don't know. It's a prospect. Like I would, if it happens, I'm not going to be upset at all. But the more I've thought about it, I'd feel like I'd rather get a guy on that's going to make an impact on the roster right now that we know is going to do that. But again, if we see on Friday night, if we trade him for Higgins, I will be probably up here jumping up and down celebrating. So I'll be ordering the James Higgins Chipotle Bowl that afternoon.
You haven't gotten it yet.
Nice.
You haven't gotten it yet.
No, not yet, not yet.
You have to, make it happen. It's not just gonna happen.
Go Friday. Go Friday.
You got to
Yeah,
get
that's
it.
what I'm doing. I'm gonna head in there in my.
I think you both should go. You both should go. One of you get the Schaefer Bowl. The other gets the Higgins Bowl.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Double protein, gotta bulk up.
There you go.
That's what
Exactly.
he's doing.
You
But
want
I think other
Shagans to
teams
happen.
see the strengths in Dobson and not the flaws
Definitely.
when they look at trading him. Like we could fix the flaws and we see the upside. But as far as the trade goes, like I think a team like Utah, like probably is like we want to move this pick. We need to make the playoffs. Like we're at that point.
Right.
You would trade your pick for a guy who's like kind of established like that in a way. So that's the only way it makes sense. But again, I don't know if we'd get more in return. Like what the exact details would look like. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah, just another point with Utah. If we can, I know there are rumors about Matias Michelli possibly moving. He had a really good rookie year. I don't remember how many assists, but he put up a ton of assists that first year. Kind of hasn't put up the same offensive numbers since then. But if we could land a guy like him in a Dobson trade as well, where we also get the fourth overall pick, that would be great.
I'd
Even a
love
guy like
that.
Sean Dursey, he plays on the right side, probably less offensive upside than Dobson. But again, he's been around a couple of years now. You know what you're getting with him, and then he can just fill in that right spot for Dobson.
Yeah, for me as a whole, when you look at the roster too, you have Dobson as an RFA and Romanov as an RFA. I'm sorry if this upsets anyone, but in my mind, I don't think you can extend both. You're looking at one probably going to get close to 10, if not 10, maybe a little more. Romanov, what would we say? 5 years at 5 to 6 per. Is that a fair number for him? Maybe. You know,
Probably with the cap going up.
yeah. So I just look at it as if you extend both of these guys, you're basically committing to the same decor, unless you move one of the vets, which we know will be hard to move because of trade protection, and then adding Schaefer, who is 17, 18 years old. So I really don't want them to go into this season with the same decor, even if it means taking a small step back for a bigger step in the future. You look at the cap structure, you already have Pollock and Mayfield signed till forever. If you sign Dobson and Romanov to 5+ year deals each, you're telling me those are five that are fixtures in this D group and you expect to contend anytime soon? You have to move one. You have to sell high. Both of them have good value. And to me, that was the one flaw Lou always had in his Isles tenure. He never really sold super high on a player, in my opinion. I'd
He
like
never sold at all.
He never sold at all, but there were times he had to sell. Taves he had to sell. Letty he had to sell. And I know that was in a flat cap world, so it's unfair to compare in certain ways. But I'd like to see Darsh take advantage of the market and maybe sell high on one of these guys. I'm not saying it has to be one specifically. It could be Dobson, it could be Romanov, but I see them as in the same tier. And you have to choose because if you sign both, your flexibility is so limited. If you sign both to me, you're so highly dependent on Schaefer hitting big that it's almost not fair to the kid. You're telling me you're going to have Mayfield, Pellick, Pollock aging. They're getting older. I think they're all either about to be 30 or over 30.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Dobson and Romanov, who are probably going to get paid more on what you're hoping they'll be than what they have been. So it's a tough place to be in. So I think Darsh is going to be active. I think most GMs in his position would not sign both players. So I'm really curious to see what he does there because if October rolls around and it's opening night and our decor is Romanov, Dobson, Pellick, Pollock, Mayfield, and whoever else helping out down there, Isaiah George and whomever, I'm not going to be happy. I want them to shake up the decor a little bit because I think it's needed shaking up for a couple years now, and it's just been so hard to rip the Band-Aid off. And this is really an opportunity here with guys do new contracts to rip the Band-Aid.
Ideally, you move one of the P and P. It's just not possible with those contracts. I
Pellick,
think the Mayfield contract's overhated. I'm probably Mayfield's biggest defender because I think he gets a terrible reputation for just eating up minutes and in that situation. But yeah, like the P and P, you look back, it's like you're still like in everyone's mind, they're still the same players that they were under Trotz, but they're not. And that's not to say they aren't like okay. Like all right, Pollock had a tough year, but I think Pellick had a bounce back season a little bit last year when he was on the ice. But I want to see more of Isaiah George. I think he's ready for that next step. He played more minutes in the AHL and he impressed, obviously with some rookie mistakes because that was his first pro season. Played more games in Bridgeport. It was just abysmal. And I think he's ready to kind of push for that last spot. And I kind of want to see that happen instead of just paying all these guys and keeping them around. So yeah, it's probably the way to go. Getting rid of at least one. You got to think Mike Riley's probably just the odd man out. Perenovich, we still don't know, but we'll see. I mean, again, like it's just there's so many back there. We talked about this on our last episode. There's just the decor is just huge right now.
Yeah, and don't forget, say Dobson's the one you end up trading. Maybe we see a Tony D back on a short term deal. Like I know Tony D isn't close to the player Dobson is, but at least it allows you to have flexibility.
When they play the same style in a
Yeah,
way, just
and I honestly, I'm calling it how it is. I think Tony D's better on the power play than Dobson is. I
yep,
really do. I think that's my thing with Dobson too, and that's where I get frustrated. I don't think he's very good on the power play, and if you want that much money and you can't quarterback the power play, that's an issue for me. And
yep.
that's my constant hold up on Dobson. And I know some people think he can, but like I don't see him walking the line that well. I don't see him being aggressive, knowing when to crash, knowing when to make that pass. Just don't see it from him. So I'm afraid to give him that type of money, to be quite
Yep.
honest.
We lost Nick Letty and everybody was happy, but then you saw it
We missed Nick.
immediately. Me too. Me too. And don't forget Adam Boquist in this equation too, because
Yeah,
he's also there, and he was also better quarterbacking the power play as well. So that just proves your point.
right. And I think Boquist is probably more of like a 7D, right?
Right.
If you're anywhere near decent, I like to think, and this is no disrespect to Boquist, he has skill, but I think if you are going for it this year, he's probably 7. If he's maybe a bottom pair, it's okay, but there's just so many guys. And I do agree with you to an extent on Mayfield. Like, I never loved the contract, way too much term. But I do think Scotty's the type of guy, if he does waive, there will be suitors for him. I don't think it's the type of
Absolutely.
thing where you have to give up an asset to dump Scotty. I think if Scotty would allow it, you can get some assets back for him and obviously get the money off the books, whatever else. But there's not as many movable contracts as there once was. Now, a lot of that's to do with less term because time has gone by. A lot of that's to do with the cap finally going up consistently. So Darsh really has his work cut out for him, but there's a lot of avenues that I see myself being happy. The only one, as far as the decor, that I would be upset, I feel, is if it's just the same group plus Schaefer. I would not.
Yep. So then you could think if Schaefer and George kind of take that next step, then Mayfield, if he could have another solid season under his belt, then he becomes more expendable because then you could open up a spot. And it's good to keep, Pellick and Pollock around to at least, advise those young guys. Maybe they're not putting up the best performances like they were. They're just playing, solid, that you could at least have their guidance there too. So those things matter.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Chicago. Like, you think Bedard's having a fun time? They don't have enough veteran talent around, and it's just like the team's terrible. You don't want your young stars to lose for 3, 4, 5 years. You want them to maybe go through 1 or 2 tough years, and then have the chance to at least compete for the playoffs. Like, I look at a Columbus. How much do you think Fantilli learned this year from being a team that's on the cusp and being in a playoff run and playing hard minutes? These are the things you want. When you have rookies around like Schaefer, you do want vets. I'm not saying you have to keep all of them, but there is benefit to having a Pollock around, a Pellick around to teach the kid how to be a professional, quite honestly.
We talked about that last episode. We were talking about the Palmieri extension. Like he's going to be a great mentor for both Cal Ritchie and Iserman, assuming Iserman comes over.
Yeah.
Not this season, but the following season, the second year of Palmieri's extension.
Yeah, and see, those are the type of things. I didn't love the number on Palmieri. I thought the AAV might have been a little bit high. I was hoping he maybe would take a little more of a sweetheart deal. But again, the 1-2 year deals, they don't kill you. The thing that's killed us over the last few years is having these guys sign for 5, 6, 7 years and not playing up to that standard. So you got to be careful. And I think Darsh is smart. I think Darsh is a good negotiator. I think he knows a lot from his Tampa days. And one thing I like about how Tampa ran things back when he was there, they sort of just pick their core, their 4 or 5 players. And outside of that, you're expendable. I mean, he was part of a front office that let Steven Stamkos walk. Not too many organizations would have done that, to be quite honest. And you look at it a year later, it's probably the right move, right? Bringing in Gensel and letting Stamkos
Definitely.
walk. So I think that's the sort of mentality the Islanders need at this point.
Yep. Cole, you got anything else to add before we wrap this up? I wanted to get to, I'll just bring him up because not really too much time to discuss it, but just that Matt Martin retired today. I know we all love Matty. Pretty much a legend for all of us. 987 career games. Still kind of annoyed that the Maple Leafs didn't. They sat him so many times they couldn't get to 1,000, so that's kind of unfortunate. So he'll be joining Darch as an assistant or a advisor to the GM.
Yes.
I don't know the official term.
Special
one of those.
advisor,
Special
I think.
assistant
Special
to the
assistant,
GM.
yeah.
Same thing, probably.
Yeah.
But that'll be good to keep him around because obviously we all respect him and he's a big part of the community. And then that the organization announced Rocky Thompson as the head coach of Bridgeport, which seems like a good move. I think Cole, you know a little bit more about him just with your experience with the AHL.
Yeah, he was the coach of the Chicago Wolves back in 2019. So I'm not too far from Charlotte. So the Checkers won the Calder Cup back in 2019 against the Wolves. The Wolves won game one in overtime. I mean, they looked good. They just looked like, and just for the record, the Checkers, I think, were in first place in the AHL from like November 10th all throughout the rest of the year. They were far and away the best team, and they did win in 5 games that year. But the Wolves, they looked good. I don't know their record offhand, but I was looking at it yesterday when they announced the hiring, and he had some good records over there. I think he has a Memorial Cup as well.
Yes.
Yeah, like he'll be a good coach. I think he was in Philly
Yeah,
coaching.
he was the assistant and coach in Philly the last 3 years, and I think he was assistant for new assistant Bob Bugner in San
Yep.
Jose for a little bit. So, I mean, it seems like he's got some credentials to him, and better than the last one. I mean, it can't go any worse. And
No.
it's going to take a while and a process to build that thing back up down there, but I think it seems like a good start. Darts was talking about him today. I saw Stefan, I think, asked him about it, and just says like his experience and that stuff. So hopefully we can get to a point where we could trust our players being down there. Kind of funny that Thompson is his last name after like Brent Thompson was there for so long. But yeah, that's about it for today's episode. Rocco, we want to thank you for coming on. Really appreciate the time. Again, you can follow him on Twitter at Pizza Sports Guy. Check out the Isles House podcast. Him and two other guys do a lot of great stuff on there. So you can check them out on Patreon, and they have a Discord as well. You can follow us on X and Instagram at On Isles Time. Follow me on X at Brendan_Yerks. Cole at Cole Healy 06. And that's it. This was On Isles Time, episode number 3. Thanks so much for tuning in.